Is everyone ready? Okay. We'll go ahead and begin. Thank you for joining us for this joint news conference. I'm Sergeant Andy Williams with the Phoenix Police Department, one of the spokesmen, public information officer. Today we are joined by City Manager Jeff Barton, Assistant City Manager Lori Bays, Mayor Kate Gallego, Chief Williams and her executive staff, City Council members O'Brien and Ansari. With that, I'm going to turn it over briefly to Mayor Kate Gallego, who will provide a statement about the incident that occurred today.
Good afternoon. Today's critical incident injured 9 of our Phoenix police officers. I cannot recall an incident in city history where so many officers were injured. I'm incredibly proud of our Phoenix Police Department. These officers chose to run into harm's way. A baby is safe today because of our Phoenix police officers. We are fortunate that in such a horrific incident and with so many injured, all are going to be safe, though many face a very difficult recovery. Not every situation makes the evening news, but our officers put themselves at risk every day to protect our city. To every officer on this team, I say thank you. My heart is with the injured officers, their families, and our entire Phoenix police team. Today at the hospital, I was talking to an officer who was about to go into surgery. That officer only wanted to hear about the rest of the squad and how they were doing. That is the type of incredibly selfless individual who serves the city of Phoenix. 9 officers shot or injured. That is an incredibly heavy weight for all of us. I want to say thank you to the dispatch team, the medical professionals, and firefighters, as well as our partner agencies who were part of today. They serve this community with excellence. We feel support of the entire community. I have heard from local neighborhood leaders, business leaders. The White House reached out with concern. I'm pleased to be joined today with my colleagues. Councilwoman Ann O'Brien chairs the Public Safety Subcommittee. Councilwoman Ansari represents this area where we are today. We celebrate great heroism, and I am proud to recognize that. Chief Williams, you have my support and condolences as this impacts your entire team.
Thank you to the mayor and to members of the media and for those folks and individuals standing behind us today. So once again, our community was devastated by acts of violence that not only injured 9 officers, but also resulted in the loss of the lives of 2 community members. 4 of those officers today are being treated for gunshot wounds. This is yet another example of the dangers our officers face day in and day out, keeping our community safe. I said it this morning and I'll say it again. If I seem upset, I am. This is senseless. It makes no sense. I'm trying to make rhyme and reason to this, but this kind of violence has no place in our city, and it continues to happen over and over again in this community and in our country. As we speak, investigators are working to uncover what led to this terrifying act, some of which was caught on tape and on camera by the media. I saw that video and it still gives me chills. And here we're horrifying, as the mayor mentioned, a baby innocently in the middle of a barrage of gunfire. This has to stop. This is a complex scene and investigation with a lot of people to interview and a tremendous amount of evidence to process. I ask you all in the media and our community to please be patient as we piece together what happened this morning. The amount of violence directed at law enforcement has increased significantly. Many of these attacks are brazen and represent a complete disregard for human life, not just here, but across our country. Dealing with violence is a community effort. It's not just the police, it's the police and the community work together. However, our justice system has to hold repeat offenders and violent offenders accountable, period. The tremendous acts of bravery that our officers showed this morning just warms my heart. When you see, you hear, you listen to what happened. As gunfire was raging out, our officers went in. As a baby is left on the doorstep, our officers went to rescue her. And that's the kind of police officers that we have here in our department and in our community. I too want to thank the dispatchers, the firefighters, the hospital staff, anybody and everyone who helped us in this effort today. I will say this, I'm incredibly proud of our officers, and I'm incredibly proud to serve this community. And I know that you all are just as proud as I am. Thank you.
At this time, I'm going to provide a brief update on some of the details I gave you earlier. I'm going to identify the suspect in this case. It is 36-year-old Morris Jones, who, as I told you before, was pronounced deceased on scene of an apparent gunshot wound. I will also confirm for you that the adult female victim, the subject of the original 911 call, has also been pronounced deceased. There also appears to have been some confusion over my initial statements, reference the male who came outside holding the baby, and I'm going to clarify some of that for you. At the time that officers were surrounding the house calling that male out, we did not know his involvement at that time in the initial reported shooting or the shooting of the officer. The male came out with the baby. He was ordered to place the baby on the ground and come out to officers where he was detained. That male was compliant, he was detained and removed from harm's way. After that, the officers moved in to extract that baby from the dangerous area, and that's when they were fired upon. I hope that brings some clarification to the earlier timeline. As the police chief said, we're asking for your patience. I know we're half a day into this investigation, and you all have a lot of questions, and we have a lot of questions as well. The complexity and scale of this scene cannot be overstated. The detectives are prepared to work all through today, all through tonight, and into tomorrow before we ever leave this scene, because we only have one chance to do it right, and we have to do it right. With that being said, I can take a few questions. At this time, we believe this child is the child in common between the two deceased individuals. That is correct. The identity of the woman has not been released yet. It is pending next of kin notifications. Of the 5 officers that were directly injured by gunfire, 4 of them remain in the hospital receiving treatment. All of them are expected to survive their injuries. The 1 officer was critically injured. The 3 other officers received serious injuries.
So who was the man who set the baby down? Was he someone who knew the victim?
Right now, the information we have is we believe that man is a family member who lived in the home.
Has he been helpful in your investigation?
He has cooperated with our investigators. I don't know to what extent.
So he's not a suspect?
At this time, he's not a suspect, but it is an ongoing investigation.
Do you know if that relative in the home with the baby, he was trying to get the baby out, or what are the circumstances for him going in the door?
So kind of like I stated, I know we have a lot of questions, a lot of details that we're still working through. I hate to speculate because things appear one way on the surface, because oftentimes we find a few days into the investigation, details change.
Is it fair to say, Sergeant Williams, that that man risked his own life in order to try to save the baby?
That man was compliant with the officers that were on the scene. The officers surrounded the house and called out the occupants of that house. That man exited the door with a baby, and he followed all commands that he was given. He was ordered to put the baby down, come out to the officers. He did so. That's how he was detained without incident. I'm not going to speculate about what the officers knew. I don't have any information to indicate that they knew anything about a baby until he came out with it.
Was the suspect killed by police gunfire or something?
That's part of the ongoing investigation. He did die of an apparent gunshot wound.
Did police have history with the suspect?
I don't know what Phoenix Police Department's history is with this suspect, but it will hopefully be uncovered throughout the course of the investigation.
So these are prior arrest or gun charges out in Tucson. Do we know any other criminal background for him?
I'm not going to speak about the suspect's criminal background at this time.
Previous contact with this home and this specific neighborhood?
Nope, not that I'm aware of. we seem to keep drilling down into these very specific questions. I just have to remind you, it's an ongoing investigation. It's incredibly complex. I don't have most of these answers yet.
9 officers injured, 5 directly hit by gunfire. How many others were injured?
We believe by shrapnel, ricochet, gunfire. It's a very young female child, an infant, who was in DCS custody the last time I was updated.
Were there any tools that you think would have helped in this investigation earlier on that weren't made available to you guys?
You know, this entire incident unfolded rapidly, and for me to speculate about how things could have happened differently would be irresponsible.
I don't know if I missed it, but do we know if the relationship with this man that took up the baby?
No, we don't know the relationship yet. We believe he lives in that home.
Were any other people involved?
No.
Were there anybody else in the home aside from the 2 people that are now deceased, the gentleman and the infant?
Only those 4 people are who we know were in the home.
You know, the mayor mentioned about how the officers went to go save that baby who was on the ground, that gunshots erupted. But officers left the baby still laying there as they took cover. How long was that baby there while the gunshots?
I don't have a specific time frame. Once the SWAT team arrived, they were able to use their tactics to move up and rescue that baby and remove it.
So that baby stayed there until SWAT.
Correct.
So did SWAT only arrive after those 8 officers were shot in the second round of shootings? At what point did SWAT arrive?
SWAT arrived after the initial shooting occurred with the officers. I don't know specifically where in that timeline.
So they were on the scene when the 8 officers were either shot or
No, SWAT arrived after those officers were injured.
The community obviously wants to show their support for the officers. Is there a recommendation of kind of a fundraiser or anything that might be going on additional for the officers?
As always, we do have the Phoenix Police Foundation, who's always been a great partner for us. But I think at this time, just recognizing what these officers are doing, you know, I know someone has already called it heroic. I don't think it's an overstatement to call what these officers did heroic. They knew that an officer had just been shot in this very doorway, and 4 officers were willing to run into that doorway to try to save this child. I think that's incredible. And I think any officer on our department would have done the exact same thing. Not at this time.
We appreciate the support of the media. Thank you very much. We know you guys have a lot of detailed questions, but of course you can imagine that they're crucial to the investigation. So we appreciate your support coming out here this afternoon, and just appreciate your continued support.
Thank you. I don't have that information.